Hi everyone. Let me take an opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Raghu. I'm an assistant professor of English, School of Sciences and Humanities, SR University, which is located in Warangal, Telangana. And as per NEP 2020, which I have mentioned even in the previous video also, IKS becomes a mandatory subject in the UC level. There are many students have been facing the issue to understand this. Hence, I decided to prepare a series of lectures on Indian knowledge system. In this process, I have already completed lesson 1 with the title, A Brief View of Indian Knowledge System. So in that lesson, I have covered 4 important points. Let us recapitulate them in a very brief manner. Number 1, what is IKS? Point number 2, what are the key features of IKS? And point number 3, what are the sources of knowledge in ancient times? And number 4, what are the significant contributions of our ancestors in the ancient times? So these are the 4 important points. We had a detailed discussion in the previous video. So let us recapitulate in a very brief note. So we had a discussion on what is IKS. IKS is nothing but the knowledge and the wisdom which has been developed in the ancient times. We call it as IKS. In full form, we call it as Indian Knowledge System. And what are the key features of IKS? You all know that it is not only the responsibility of the students, it is a responsibility of every citizen to have a knowledge on ancient times. It is a prior responsibility of every Indian citizen to understand Indian knowledge system, because we have built the modern civilization on the roots of ancient knowledge. So that is why it is a responsibility of every Indian citizen to have a brief understanding on ancient knowledge system. So the important key feature of IKS is holistic. What does it mean by holistic? Our ancestors firmly believed that everything in this nature and universe is interrelated and interconnected. Either the humans, nature, universe, everything is interrelated and interconnected. That is the strongest belief of our ancient people. For example, the trees are producing oxygen to us. By taking the oxygen, we are trying to survive. Similarly, we are releasing the carbon dioxide for the survival of the trees. So this is called interrelated and interconnected. So they firmly believe that everything in this nature is interrelated and interconnected. That we call it as holistic approach. That is one of the key features of ancient times. And the second important key feature of ancient time is nothing but pertaining to education system, especially they believe in practical and experiential learning. I have already mentioned even in the previous lecture also, our ancestors firmly believed that education is not just theoretical concepts for memorization. They were against the rote memorization, and they believe in practical learning, hands-on approach. They do with practice. Whatever the things they have learned in the classroom, they practically apply them in the real-time situations through actions. So that is one of the significant features of ancient education system, practical and experiential learning. And the third important quality of our ancient times pertaining to education system, they firmly believe that education is the manifestation of attitude. So that is why they give utmost priority in inducing moral values and ethical values in the students through Guru Shishya learning process. So they believe that through education, they need to teach moral values and ethical values. So they will not teach how to live. They will teach how rightly live. That is the main belief of our ancient education system. So that is the third important quality, inducing moral and ethical values through education. And the fourth important quality, they always love with the nature. They always love to live with the nature. They have a very firm bond with the nature. They firmly believe that they will be healthy and peaceful if they live with the nature. You all know that, okay, during the ancient times, all the people they always love to live with the nature. But the modern civilization, in the name of industrialization, in the name of cities development, we are away from the villages and rustic atmosphere, and we are living in the cities amidst of pollution and global warming. Now we started realizing what is the significance of living with the nature. Okay, even you can witness some of the examples. Whenever the students are having some vacation, actually holidays, they are going to the farmhouses. They would like to live with the villages, live in the villages with their grandparents or whatever. So we started realizing what is the significance of living with nature that they have already believed in the ancient times. So these are the four important key features of ancient knowledge is concerned. And next one, what are the sources of the knowledge they have? How did they learn the things? What are the sources they have? They have four important sources the gurus teach to the students. What are the four important sources they have? And the material which they are going to teach it to the students? They are Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, and epics. We have four Vedas actually Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. These are all the four Vedas actually. The importance of these four Vedas are to teach wisdom and ethical values to the people. And Upanishads, the importance of Upanishads are nothing but they teach self realization and importance of truth. And the third one, Puranas, they narrate the stories, and through the stories, they used to induce moral values in the people. And Puranas, they teach about dharma, non-violence, the right way of living, such as Ramayana, Mahabharata. So these are all the different sources of knowledge they have in the ancient times. And the next one, what are the significant contributions of our ancient people to modern civilization? There are many fields our ancestors have given their significant contributions. For example, if you take health and wellness, we have to talk something about Ayurveda. Even in the modern civilization, also, most of the people in the recent times they have a belief on Ayurveda rather than relying on allopathy. The one of the significant achievements of ancient times is Ayurveda, treating the diseases with the natural medicines. And not only that, there were significant contributions by ancient scholars in mathematics and physical sciences. Aryabhatta, we never forget him in the ancient time who invented zero. Can you at least imagine the mathematics without having a zero? It's not possible. So these are the significant contributions of our ancient people to mathematics and physical sciences. And not only that, trading had been started in the ancient times. Okay, and copper coins has been used in the ancient times for doing trading. And they used to sell the gold to the some other countries also. And the trading has been started in the ancient times that we are using even now also. And not only that, they strongly believe yoga. Healthy mind gives healthy body gives healthy mind. That is the strongest belief of our ancient people. So that is the reason they always encourage yoga in the ancient times. And even the modern people also have realized the importance of yoga. And our central government also declared one day as an yoga day by realizing its importance. And even our Honorable Prime Minister has been promoting yoga also by realizing its significance. And not only that, they have given very significant contributions to the astronomy. Very important theories were proposed by our ancestors, that is called geocentric theory and heliocentric theory, that we have already discussed in the previous lecture. What is a geocentric theory? Our ancestors initially believed that Earth was the center of the universe. All the planets were revolving around the Earth, including the Sun. That is called geocentric theory. Thousands of years, our ancestors believed it. But later, after reinvestigating the universe by some other ancient scholar, they have proposed another theory called heliocentric theory on the astronomy and universe. According to that, Earth is not the center of the universe, Sun is the center of the universe. All the planets are revolving around the Sun, including the Earth. And what is the belief even in the modern civilization we are following? That is heliocentric theory. And we firmly believe that Sun is the center of the universe. All the planets are revolving around the Sun, including the Earth. So these are all the significant contributions of our ancestors, our ancient India, for the development of the modern civilization. That's why we can't imagine the modern civilization, okay, without our ancient India. So it is a responsibility of every Indian citizen to have some basic knowledge on Indian knowledge system. That's why if you want to really understand the modern civilization, you have to see through the lens of ancient India. So that is what the brief understanding of ancient knowledge system or an Indian knowledge system in the previous lecture. Now let's move on to the second lesson, the modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. So they have precious knowledge. Ancient India is the repository of knowledge, but how that knowledge was transmitted to the generations in ancient India. That is what we are going to discuss in lesson number 2. So, what are the different modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India? One of the significant modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India is Guru Sishya Parampara, which means learning from a teacher. During the ancient times, Sishyas or students lived with the Guru and learned by observing and practicing. Even in the previous lecture, also, I clearly mentioned that during the ancient times, if the students would like to learn something, they would go to the Gurukulas and request the Gurus over there to learn from them. If the Gurus have been accepted their request, they live with the Gurus in Gurukulas and learn from them by observing and practicing. I have already mentioned in the previous lecture, in the ancient education system, practical learning is one of the key features of ancient education system. They don't believe in memorization, rather they believe learning from doing. Knowledge was shared orally and practically, not just from books. I have already mentioned that they are not much interested reading something from the books rather than whatever they have learned. They used to transmit that information through orally to the other people. Otherwise, learning by doing, that we call it as practically. And ancient education system has given more importance to values, skill enhancement, and wisdom, not just facts. They gave utmost priority for skill enhancement. That's what learning by doing. Inducing ethical and moral values is one of the key features of ancient education system. For example, if you take Upanishads, how Upanishads have been taught by the teachers during the time, a student asks the deep questions, and what is the responsibility of the Guru? The Guru explains the answers to that. So this is called Guru Sishya Parampara. While they are teaching Upanishads, actually, they had an interaction with between the Guru and Sishya. The Sishyas were going to pose the questions, and the Gurus are going to give the answers with the detailed explanations and examples. That is the way they taught Upanishads during the time. That is the way the information or the knowledge has been transmitted in the ancient time from one person to other person. If you take one more familiar example, the life of Ekalavya. You all know the story of Ekalavya, I believe. Okay, Ekalavya learned archery with lot of dedication through observation from the far distance. You all know the story of Ekalavya, right? Ekalavya would like to learn something like archery from a guru, Dronacharya. But the Dronacharya has rejected to teach him. But with lot of commitment and dedication, by observing how he was teaching to the other students, he learned archery from him. He became very expert, a skillful person in that, by observing that in a very far distance. So, observation is one of the important modes of knowledge transmission in the ancient times. In ancient Gurukulas, students learn medicine, music, or mathematics through hands-on approach. Hands-on is nothing but through practical learning. Whatever they are learning, they are implementing that in the real-time situations. A true teacher shows the way. A student learns with the heart and mind. That is the belief of ancient people. I just want to make it very clear. A teacher is just a facilitator. He is a mentor. He is a guider in the ancient times. And the Shishyas or the students, with lot of dedication and commitment, they used to learn many things from them by living with them in the Gurukulas. What is the second important modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India? That is learning by listening, oral tradition. Even in the previous lecture also I have already mentioned that there are two important traditions they generally follow to transmit the knowledge from one person to other person or one generation to other generation. And one of them is oral tradition. People learn by listening to the things carefully and repeating them what they heard. So you know that what was happening in the Gurukulas, the gurus are going to say something and the sishyas are going to repeat by listening to that. That is one of the methods of teaching in Gurukulas in the ancient times. In modern times, we call it as drilling, is one of the methods of teaching. Knowledge was shared orally before books have been existed. So before the books have been existed in the ancient times, whatever the knowledge they had, they used to transmit the knowledge through oral tradition from one person to other person. One of the best examples are nothing but in the ancient time to transmit the knowledge orally, that is through Harikadas. You all know what is Harikadas actually. The image is also showing the person who is narrating Harikadas. So have you ever observed, especially in the villages, we can witness that you might be witnessed even in the modern civilization also. The group of people will be gathered in one particular place. Okay. And the people who would like to narrate the Harikadas actually, they used to perform something in front of them and narrate the stories of our ancestors or ancient wisdom, maybe Mahabharata, Ramayana. They used to narrate them in the form of Harikadas. What is their belief? Songs, chants, and stories made learning easy to remember them. Rather than reading something from the books, actually, they firmly believe that songs, chants, and listening to the stories are the best ways of learning to remember them for a long time. That's why even Ramayana, Mahabharata, there are many number of ancient stories still existed in the modern civilization. Our grandparents have been teaching them to the children as the bedtime stories. Example, Vedas were passed down by saying them aloud again and again. How Vedas were taught by the gurus in the ancient time? I have already mentioned that drilling is one of the important methods of teaching in the ancient times. Thus, the gurus say something and the sishyas will repeat aloud again and again. That is one of the ways of learning in the ancient time in the form of oral tradition. Folk tales and legends were told by elders to teach morals. The same tradition, even in the modern civilization, our grandparents have been following. Have you ever observed? Have you ever experienced this? Your grandmother used to narrate the stories to the children during the bedtime. This tradition has been adopted from the ancient India only. So they teach moral values by the elderly personalities to the students, to the children. The same tradition, even in the modern civilization, we are following. Traditional mantras and chants helped students to remember prayers and rituals. So, the mantras and the chants helped the students to perform the prayers and rituals in the ancient times. Even now, there are many students in the modern times, they are very good at doing prayers and rituals. So, whatever the traditions we have from the ancient times, even now we are following strictly. Hearing carefully is the first step to learn deeply during the ancient times. So, listening is one of the best ways of learning in the ancient times. They firmly believe that songs, chants, stories are the best ways to remember them for a long time. So, this is another important way to transmit the knowledge from one generation to other generation in the ancient times. The third one, learning by writing in the form of manuscripts. You know that after the oral tradition, if they want to transmit the knowledge from one generation to other generation, it has to be in a printed format. So what they have done, it has to be in writing. People began writing their knowledge on the palm leaves and the materials to preserve important lessons. During the ancient times, to carry out the wisdom and the knowledge of the ancient times actually to the next generations, the scholarly personalities during the ancient times write their knowledge in the form of a palm leaves. And that material is carried out to the coming generations too. Writing helped to save knowledge for future generations. So they would like to take that knowledge to the future generations. Whatever the valuable wisdom is there, whatever the valuable knowledge was there in the ancient time, that has been transmitted to the next generations through writings. They made learning more permanent and shareable. So, what is their intention of writing? They want to make it permanent and they would like to share it to the next generations. And it should not be ended with them. That is their mere intention of writing. Stories, information related to science and wisdom were recorded in the form of manuscripts. You all know that actually our ancient scholars has started observing the universe long back. Aryabhatta, who invented the zero, that is the base of modern mathematics. There are many contributions by ancient people. Okay, on the roots of the ancient civilization only, we are constructing the modern civilization. That's why even in the previous video also I have already mentioned, if you really want to understand the knowledge of the modern civilization, we have to see that through the lens of ancient India. Examples of Mahabharata. This is an epic which is teaching about life, duty, and values. There are Puranas, stories to guide people in morals, traditions, and culture. Ancient scientific texts like Ayurveda were written for reference. So, all these books were written in the form of palm leaves. All this wisdom, all these epics, Puranas, all the information related to Ayurveda have been written in the form of palm leaves. And that information has been carried out to the next generations, and we are now utilizing that. Even the modern generation also utilizing that information. I have already mentioned that there are many people, rather than relying on allopathy medicine, they are very much interested to go for Ayurveda medicine now. What is written lives beyond the time. That is my intention. So, whatever the knowledge and wisdom they have, it should not be ended with them. It has to reach to the next generations. That is why all their knowledge, all the important knowledge, what they had in the ancient time, has been written in the form of palm leaves. And we are using that. Such a precious knowledge we are using even now in the modern civilization. Another important modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India is performing arts as a learning. It is surprising. You all should understand that during the ancient times, they were not just relying on learning by doing. They were not just relying on written communication. They were not just relying on oral tradition. Okay. They also relied on arts in transmitting the knowledge. They used different dance forms, music, drama to teach different concepts and to transfer the knowledge to the group of people. Stories from epics conveyed through different dance performances. So, whatever the different moral stories were there in the epics, actually, such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, and that has been conveyed through dance performances to the group of people in the ancient India, learning became engaging and emotionally connected. Rather than reading something from the books, actually, rather than narrating something orally to the group of people, if something has been performed in the form of a dance or in the form of singing or in the form of performing a drama, it registers in the minds of the people for a long time. And it will make the audience emotionally connected to that. It is almost like we are watching movies. Sometimes while we were watching the movies, we have the tears also. We were emotionally connected to the characters in that movie. Similarly, by narrating the stories, they would like to convey the stories from epics and Puranas by using dance performances and dramas in the ancient times, and which will make the audience emotionally connected to that. Example, temple dances they had, folk theatre traditions they had to perform dramas and everything. I've given different dance forms and their origins and what is their importance also in the tabular form. Kathak, which is originated in North India. What is the significance of this Kathak dance form? Okay, it mainly highlights tales from Ramayana, Mahabharata, devotional stories of Krishna. When it comes to Kathakali, which is originated in Kerala. So, what is the significance of Kathakali then? Okay, it performs about epic stories, especially Mahabharata and Ramayana, uses elaborate costumes and facial expressions in the form of conveying that story. Odissi, which was originated in Odisha, and what is its main significance? Okay, the dances perform devotional tales of Lord Jagannath and Krishna legends. Bharatanatyam, which was originated in Tamil Nadu. Temple stories, devotion to gods, epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. Kuchipudi, which was originated in Andhra Pradesh, it mainly focused on mythological stories through dance drama. And Manipuri, which was originated in Manipur, it mainly focused on Krishna related stories. So, what we should understand here during the ancient times, in the form of transmitting the knowledge to the group of people, or else from one generation to other generation, they used the dance forms, they used the arts, they used the drama as a medium of transmission of knowledge. See the intellectual capability of our ancestors, how they transmitted the knowledge from one generation to other generation. The another important modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India, that is through dialogue and debate. Debate, which is quite familiar even to the modern civilization also. Am I right? For example, there are many English teachers used to conduct the debate. Okay, among the students actually by giving a topic to them. What is the importance of it? To develop their communication skills in the target language. Not only that, they are going to share their knowledge and information to the group of people through the debate. This is a tradition which has been adopted from our ancient India and that acted as one of the modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. Structured intellectual debates between the scholars. It is being organized by gurus in the ancient times, which helped to improve their language skills, in addition to that, to transmit the knowledge and to share their knowledge. It also encouraged critical thinking and logical reasoning through the debate. That is also one of the reasons for organizing the debate even in the modern civilizations. Debate becomes one of the important rounds even in the recruitment process also by many companies in the modern times. Students learn by questioning and defending their ideas. In a debate, you know that very well. Different perceptions will be there. Two perceptions. One is one group of people are going to support it, and one group of people are going to oppose it. So every group has the responsibility to defend their stand, and it will make them how to defend their ideas, make them to understand how to defend their ideas through critical and logical reasoning. Other modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. The another significant one is observation and imitation. In addition to the practical learning during the ancient times, in regard of education is concerned, observation and imitation is one of the other ways of modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. One of the best examples, which I have already mentioned, Ekalavya's example. Dronacharya, who rejected to teach him, but by observing from a far distance, he has learned archery from Dronacharya, and he became as an expert in that. So through observation and imitation, he has learned many things from Dronacharya. So observation and imitation is another significant mode of knowledge transmission in ancient India. Students learn by watching the teacher or experts. Through observations, whatever the teachers are doing, by observing that, they are also practicing the same. Observing and practicing. Skills like crafts, medicine, warfare, and arts taught practically through observations. The kings would like to learn how to participate and fight in the warfare from gurus. The gurus make them to learn how to do sword fight, how to do archery. Through observations and through practice, they used to learn from them. Not only warfare, it is something about crafts, medicine, arts, everything. The Sishyas have been learned from gurus through observation and practice. So, what is the approach they followed? See, practice, and becomes the master in that. So that is another significant modes of knowledge transmission in ancient times. And the seventh one, which is a different one, and modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India through pilgrimages and travel. Pilgrimages are nothing but visiting the pilgrim spots such as temples, churches, or whatever. So when they are visiting those places, actually, they are going to share their knowledge with the people over there, as well as they are going to learn from the people over there by visiting different places. Even now, there are many people who are so much interested to travel. It is not just for fun and entertainment or a hobby. They would like to learn many things from them. If they are visiting different places, actually, they understand their culture, tradition, their knowledge, their wisdom. So it is one of the best ways of modes of knowledge transmission in ancient times, which has been even following in the modern civilization. Learning through travel and exposure to different regions, which give us a lot of knowledge, which gives an opportunity to share our knowledge to the other people in the different regions. Exchange of ideas between gurukulas, scholars, and cultures. It is an opportunity of exchange of ideas from one gurukula to another gurukula. You know, intentionally, the gurus of one specific gurukula send the shishyas to other gurukulas. What is the purpose of it? These people are going to share their knowledge with the other students, and whatever the knowledge the other students have, they are going to share it to them. So, in this way, the knowledge in the ancient times has been transmitted from one Gurukula to other Gurukula, one scholar to other scholar, and one culture to other culture by visiting different regions in the name of travel and pilgrimages. Broaden the knowledge and perspective. This is one of the best ways of learning something, one of the different ways of modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. What is the another significant way of knowledge transmission? Community based learning. Have you ever observed at the time of festivals, actually, the elderly personalities will be there, the gurus will be there, they are going to teach something to the gathered people. They will make them to understand how to perform the pujas, how to perform the rituals, how to celebrate the festival. This is a kind of a learning. Okay, this is a kind of a community based learning. So all people will gather in one particular place. The elders and community leaders are going to give the knowledge to them because they are the carriers of knowledge. They make them to understand the people who have gathered over there, how to celebrate the festival, okay, how to perform the pujas and rituals. Whatever they have learned, It has been carried out from one generation to other generation. Even now we are performing the pujas or rituals in a very systematic manner because that knowledge has been transmitted from our ancestors to the modern civilization too. Encouraged collective learning and social values. Have you seen that whenever we are performing Ganapati Puja, okay, we are establishing some stalls, stages, and everything. All together, we are performing puja, Dasara festival, or whatever. All are gathering one particular place and performing puja. Of course, we are performing pujas in our individual homes. But again, we used to gather in one particular place and perform the puja as a community based culture. All these traditions have been adopted from our ancient culture only. It becomes one of the another significant ways of knowledge transmission in ancient India, especially pertaining to transmission of knowledge related to festivals, culture, traditions, and all. And another significant way of knowledge transmission in the ancient times, that is symbolism and visual representation. Temples are the best examples for them. Use of symbols, diagrams, and art to convey the ideas. So they are using symbols to convey the information. They are using diagrams to convey the information. They are using different arts to convey the information in ancient times. The best example, which I have already mentioned, is the temple. Ancient temples. Have you ever observed that? In the ancient temple, the walls of the ancient temple have been carved with the different pictures. Have you ever observed that? Okay, we have the lifestyle in the ancient time on those carvings. Okay, everything has been clearly explained, how they have lived, how what was their culture at the time, what was their lifestyle at the time, what kind of knowledge they had, how did they construct the buildings and all. Everything has been carved on the temples because their intention is the knowledge has to be permanent to the generations. It has to be transmitted from one generation to other generation. See the intellectuality of our ancestors. They are not just preserving the information in the form of palm leaves or books. They preserve the information permanently in the form of temple carvings, which is carrying out from one generation to other generation thousands of years, not even 1 or 2 years actually, or 100 years, thousands of years. Can you at least imagine that the intellectual capability of our ancestors? That's why we have to learn from them. That is a responsibility of every citizen. Helped in visual learning and deeper understanding. So everything was explained in the form of carvings on temple. That is another significant way of modes of knowledge transmission. And the last one, mnemonic techniques, which means drilling the rhymes, chants, and patterns to register for a long time in the memory. Through the rhymes, actually, they teach morals. Have you ever imagined that? Even you can witness it. For example, we have a quite familiar rhyme in English actually. Johnny, Johnny, yes, Papa, eating sugar, no, Papa. That means through the rhyme, we are making the children to understand that we should not eat sugar too much, which is not good for health. So, how did you do that? That is through our ancient traditions. Because this is called mnemonic technique. Through rhymes, chants, they will make them to understand the lifestyle of the people. They will make them to understand how to live and what are the habits you need to develop. Complex knowledge preserved through structured recitation methods. So if they want to convey something in the form of chants, rhymes, they convey the information and they make them to drill it and remember it for a long time in the memory. Example, Vedic chanting techniques ensured accuracy over generations. I've already mentioned in the previous class also. What is that? Our gurus used to teach Vedas. By saying them, they will make the Sishyas to repeat them again and again louder. Drilling is one of the ways of teaching method, one of the methods of teaching in the ancient times. So these are all the different modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. Ancient India followed a diverse and dynamic learning system. So it is not one way or two way. They have used different methods of knowledge transmission different remarkable and significant methods of knowledge transmission in ancient India, which combines oral tradition. It includes practical approach, artistic approach, and experimental learning too. That is what we have learned. Focused on deep understanding of values and real life application. Whatever they have learned, they used to apply that in the real life situations. And more importantly, they induce the ethical values and moral values through education by using different modes of knowledge transmission. Encourage the critical thinking, logical thinking through debates, creativity, and lifelong learning. Knowledge was shared, it was preserved in the form of palm leaves or carvings on the temple, and evolved and carried out across the generations. Even now, the modern civilization, the modern generations have been using whatever the ancestors have been followed. So, this is the end of the lecture on the topic the modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. Let's move on to the another lecture. Thank you.